y'all ready?
No.
Y'all ready? Okay, ready. Okay, let's get on our serious face. Okay, not really serious faces. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, you all, today I'm going to be talking about genes and DNA. So, all about us. And I want to figure out, what do you guys know already? Do you know what DNA or a gene is?
I do not know what a gene is. I don't know what a DNA is.
So what would you call DNA?
It's like someone's like DNA is basically someone's like, I don't really know how to say it.
Okay. Well, I like that you've heard of it before. So I'm going to kind of get into it here. But okay, the reason we know about genes is from a guy a couple hundred years ago named Gregor Mendel, who had a garden. And he liked to grow pea plants. And he noticed that when he crossed pea plants, so basically had a mother and father pea plant, that he could kind of start predicting what the offspring, what like the baby pea plants were going to look like. And oftentimes they looked like the parents, but they had different ways that they were expressing it. And he called these genes. He talked about a unit of inheritance, how things are inherited as genes. And so genes are units of hereditary, and hereditary is basically what we inherit from our parents and our grandparents. And genes are made of DNA. So we'll get to that next. And each gene gives the instructions for a specific protein that has a job in our body. And when we think about the genes that we have, and they all have a different function, we have over 20,000 genes. That's a lot. And then when we look at it's made of DNA, DNA is basically the alphabet of genetics. So instead of having 26 letters like A, B, C, D, E, F, really there's 4 main letters for DNA. And you want to help me out here? What are the letters?
A. T.
Yep.
C.
Yeah, and what's this last one? G. Yes, you're right. And so these 4 letters are what the DNA makes. Thank you, Eli. So DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. I won't make you memorize that. I won't ask you what that is later. And it is actually formed in a helix. And so a helix is like a ladder that's twisted a little bit. And it was the shape of it and what it looks like was discovered by Rosalind Franklin, James Watson, and Francis Crick. And we know that it's made up of these nucleotides that Eli was showing, the A, T, C, and G, and also the sugar phosphate backbone. So each gene is actually made up of hundreds to thousands of DNA bases long. It's that long. And it has to read it in like these sets of 3s. So the cells in our body read these genes like instructions, kind of like recipes. And have you guys ever used a recipe to make something at home? Cool. So genes code for ultimately proteins. And that's kind of like the final thing. So here's a gene. The body reads it like this and it says, okay, I know what to make now, and I'm going to use that recipe to make that final product or make that protein. And when we think about proteins, we have a lot of proteins in our body. Most people just think about proteins as stuff that they eat, like food that they eat, right? Like what foods have a lot of protein in it? I think like eggs and meat and things like that. But our body actually needs a lot of different types of proteins in order to work correctly. So each protein has a role in the human body, and some are for things like enzymes that break down our food and give us energy. Some are structural proteins, like there's proteins that make up our bones and how strong they are. Some are for just maintenance in our body, making sure everything works okay. Others are transporters. They move things around in our body. Like maybe when we get oxygen into our lungs and it has to move it to all the different parts of our body. And some are what we call channel proteins, which basically are like doors in and out of our cells, like what comes in and what comes out. And so we have over 20,000 genes. They all make different proteins, but not all proteins are made at the same time. So every single cell, like an eye cell or a heart cell, might have different proteins made and genes turned on at one time or another. So if you hear someone talk about a genome, it's our complete set of DNA. And that includes genes and also DNA that aren't in genes. And when you look from person to person, all of us here, our DNA is more than 99.9% the same. Even though we all look a little different, we're different heights, sometimes we have different hair color and eye color, hair color, and all sorts of different features, but it's only for that 0.1% DNA variation. Variation means where it's a little different from person to person. That's where we get all of our interesting features. And so the human genome is made up of about 3 billion DNA bases. Isn't that so huge? That's so many. And where are DNA and genes found? They're found in our cells. So our cells, if you blow up a picture, it looks kind of like this. And these are the building blocks that make all living things. We have around 30 trillion cells in our body, and we have cells like in our heart, we have eye cells, we have skin cells, we have brain cells, and within each cell, there's a lot of different pieces to it, and the inside is called the nucleus, and that's where the DNA is stored. It's in the nucleus. And in the nucleus, it's actually on these structures called chromosomes. And chromosomes are made up of tightly wound up DNA. And each chromosome has many, many genes on it. And if you looked in our nucleus, you'd see that most people have 46 chromosomes. And they come in pairs. And they come in pairs because how many parents do we have? How many biological parents do we have?
Like 1 million.
Well, you have a biological mother, and who's your other parent?
My dad.
Yeah. So you have 2 parents, and that's why you have 2 of all of these different chromosomes, because one came from your mom and one came from your dad. And that's why you're a mix of both parents, right? Often you look like both of them because you get genetic material from both your mom, your biological mom, and your biological dad.
Well, luckily I got my dad's height.
Yeah.
Same with me.
Yeah. And then the last one is called the sex chromosomes because they determine biological sex, whether someone has the physical features of being female or male. And if you have an X and an X, you're a biological female. And if you have an X and a Y, you're a biological male. And so this is the last one, but if we look at it all together, in our body, we have trillions of cells, and inside each cell is a nucleus, and it has the chromosomes. The chromosomes are made up of tightly wound DNA, and the DNA is what is read. It's all of these letters, these DNA bases, and they're read in sections called genes to make a protein product that does all the things in our body. So we are going to make a DNA helix ourselves. And Eli, I'm gonna need your help on this too. So let's see here. Eli, you and I are gonna be one strand, and you two are gonna be another strand. You hold this, and you hold this, and we are going to grab the DNA bases, and Eli, I'm gonna have you be a G and a T. We'll see if we can do this. Okay. And I'm gonna be a C.
Make sure,
And
make sure
an
she has
A.
some too. Don't take it off.
Okay,
Don't take
so
off the DNA, man.
we are making the DNA thing. This is a sugar phosphate backbone, and then these are the bases. And the bases match. So a G matches to a C. So you're gonna hold it out to try to touch. We might have to get a little closer to touch Eli's
If
G.
you hold the string up, can you hold the string up, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, I'm gonna have you go a little.
So yes, that's
There.
right. Those
And
match.
then, can you hold with your other hand? Can you put that there? And then, I'm gonna have you put this one here, and this one here. And, let's see here. With your other hand, can you hold this one right here too? Thank you. Okay. Like this. And then, sometimes if a cell is gonna divide, because when we're growing, like when we're little babies, we have to get bigger and bigger. And so when it needs to do that, and a cell needs to divide and make copies of itself, it actually separates the strands, and then they make copies of themselves so that more DNA bases will get added. So what matches to a T? Do you remember which one? That's right. And what matches to a G?
C.
That's right. And then what will match to an A?
T.
Yep. And what matches to a C?
G.
That's right. That's right. So the body will add a new set of DNA bases here to be able to make the new strands. And ours will get added too with a, what will get added?
C and an A.
Yep. And then a G and a T. And that's how you replicate or you double your DNA. Do you guys want to play a game?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you guys. I'll
I
take
can take
this. Okay. So, first one we're gonna do is.
You want me to sit?
What's
I'm gonna
that?
angle this camera a bit.
Yeah, let's see here. We're gonna do Battle of the Bases, where